Hey guys, welcome to another Consult ROI podcast. I'm your host, Cameron. I've got Morgan here as well from Strategy Zoo. He's been a long-time business serial entrepreneur. So we had briefly known each other in that clear back in the days where he owned a tech repair shop and that. Ended up selling that, going through a marketing firm, now owns this, which is actually a very prestigious consulting firm that helps people just kind of more execute on their strategy with marketing in general. And so we're happy to have his expertise and as well as just business experience from a few different careers and businesses that he's built himself, and kind of just go over what he's found to be the most successful. So this is definitely an episode either way that you want to stay in tune for and get some value out of. Take notes, all of that jazz. So without any further ado, Morgan, I will let you introduce yourself. Take it away.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Cameron. Yeah, like you said, I founded a cell phone repair company there in Utah, and that was awesome. And I'm sure people have heard this story from me so many times, but it's just how I was built as an entrepreneur. And inside that company, we actually scaled up to 14 locations across 3 states, which was really awesome. I got the opportunity to do some really awesome things in that company, like pitch the Sharks on Shark Tank, and we actually went on CNBC's West Texas Investor Club, Matthew McConaughey's brother. That was awesome. But we grew a little company. In that business, though, I have to say that when I look back on that business, I realized like all my mistakes I made. It was really like the what's it called? The impetus of who I am today, because I look back and I was like, I had a business partner that was actually super awesome, that like led the ship. And I was kind of like the follower in there. I just made this post about this on Facebook, but I kind of coasted in that company. I mean, I would work hard at times, but I'd kind of coast. And then after that company is when I started my marketing company, and because I fell in love with marketing in there as well. And so that next company that I started, I was like, man, I'm not going to be mediocre anymore. I'm going to treat this next business as like my baby. My old business partner from the cell phone repair company, he treated the company like his baby. And I kind of just let him do his thing. And he was the face of the company. And I was kind of in the background, and I kind of just followed and, but I learned a lot. So my next company, I was like, hey, I'm going all in. I'm going all in on this. This is all mine. But I had another business partner, a different one for that one. But then we grew my marketing company, my agency, where we did everything from SEO to Google ads to Facebook ads. We grew that company to 2 locations and a full staff. And we went through COVID in that. We went through the pandemic in that. It was wild. Kept it afloat as all these other companies around us were like closing. We kept it afloat. I opened another office in the middle of that, up here in Idaho, actually. And then last year, 2023, we started getting in the conversation at the beginning of the year of maybe exiting that, because marketers are a dime a dozen right now. I mean, if you've made a post on anywhere in any business group, your DMs would just be dead from people reaching out for marketing, right? And so I recognized that like marketers were just overcoming the market. And so I wanted to get out. I think it was time for me. And where I landed is Strategy Zoo. What I'm doing now, I started this at the end of last year after exiting. And I realized I just love teaching people. I love consulting people in the high level strategy of how to go to market with your things. So not necessarily doing the ads for you, not necessarily doing the SEO for you, but putting the strategy together of how to take your brand to market, and specifically hitting the foundational things that need to happen in a company to be ready to do those things. So that's who I am. That's what I do. And I'm based out of Pocatello. I moved up to Pocatello, Idaho last year with my girlfriend. And so I'm up here, have my office, great view right now of the mountains. It's beautiful. And just going full steam ahead with consulting. That's my passion right now, is just teaching other people of how to do things, and showing them the way and what's worked for me.
Awesome. So if I'm understanding you correctly, a lot of what you're saying too is, one, you do need to be passionate about it. And the root thing that you found that you were passionate about when all is said and done through your journey is that you love helping or serving people to show them how to treat their own business like their baby, and to be passionate about it and help them scale that and really give it the nurturing and foundational principles that it needs to be successful and set it up for the economy and stuff of that nature.
Yeah. One of my unique abilities I have, Cameron, is I can look at a company and I can see relatively really quick of where they're lacking or where they're failing, right? In the marketing realm, for sure. I can take a look and say, oh, it's their content, oh, their website, oh, their SEO, oh, this. I have a really unique ability to say, what's the best way to reach your target demographic? And so I get passionate about that and wanting to help people. Hey, these are the holes that are not being filled right now. Let's go plug those holes in the ship, right? Because we're sinking right now. And so I've done a lot of that, but I've also worked with like national brands. So like some of my largest clients right now are national nonprofit companies that are doing really well, but they could just be doing a lot better for their ROI. But yeah, I'm super passionate about that. I think passion is what gets you through those hard days. If I wasn't passionate about business or passionate about entrepreneurship, I would have quit a long time ago, right? We've all had those days where you're looking at your bank account and you're like, man, am I crazy? Why am I doing this? And your phone's blowing up with customer problems or this or that, especially in the early days. And so passion gets you through those things for sure, 100%. Because no sane person would choose this life. I'm telling you that. So,
well, everybody thinks that entrepreneurship is easy. It always will be easy, and that's the reality. Is entrepreneurship has a less success rate than even certain Olympic events to win gold medal. Or win a medal at all. That's how crazy it is. And that includes all the athletes that fall away or fail out or get injured or whatever else, because in business, obviously, you have all these different things that will happen. You have marital issues. You have business partners that go south. You have finances that weren't managed right. You have marketing that wasn't because people do dump a ton of money right into marketing without having a lot of those foundational key principles, as we've talked about. Yes. So they think that, oh, hey, if I just dump money in ads, then it'll just work out. And you look at their website and it's this really crappy Wix drag and drop or Squarespace or whatever that they just did not design well, did not put the time, none of the images are aligned correctly. And you can clearly tell, and it just feels like a thrift store. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, people aren't willing to pay for that or see that service. And then when you come in as a consultant, you have to very tactfully call their baby ugly.
And I always tell people when with my clients, I tell my clients this, when I do their SWOT analysis, their strength, weakness, opportunities, and their SWOT analysis, right? When I do that, I always tell them, don't get offended on this. This is just my opinion, right? I'm not the end all be all, but this is just what I've seen work in business. But yeah, you have to kind of tiptoe around some feelings, but good business owners are really open to feedback, right? Yeah. And saying, hey, like, this is why I hired this guy. And so sometimes I have to be tactful in how I say things, but yeah, you're right. Like, you can have the best product in the whole world, but if you don't have the right sales funnel and the right systems to get that product or service sold, it does you no good. You could have the best thing in the world. If no one knows about it, it does you no good. On the flip side, you can have the best website in the whole world, but if you don't get traffic to it, what good is it, right? Yeah. And so there's these different facets of business that you have to look at and say, okay, how is my product or service good? That's the first thing. Am I offering something that's valuable? That's the first thing. You can only put lipstick on a pig so much before people say this is crap and no one buys it anymore. And so many stories they're coming to my mind, like Jesse Itzler. If you know Jesse Itzler, he did the coconut water and stuff. But one of the things, he was on Joe Rogan's podcast. He's the guy who had David Goggins come stay with him for a month. So Jesse, he had the caffeine strips, kind of like Listerine strips. He had caffeine strips that you could put in your mouth. But he brought it out right as 5 Hour Energy got big, right? And he did all this marketing for it. And he even had like LeBron James and these other huge celebrities marketing for him, and sales went up. But as soon as people realized that 5-hour energy was better and that these strips were not that great, it failed. And he even says you can only market a bad product for so long. So like the first thing is like making sure that your product or your service is actually good, right? And there's been some hard conversations I've had with people that'd be like, this isn't worth that, or this, I don't think this is going to sell.
I look at it as a bike. So in the old days, almost everybody knew how to work on their own bike. Nowadays, not so much, it seems. But everything needs to be in tune for it to work right? You need to have and granted, you can have some certain things off, like your wheels might not be fully trued, and they might occasionally rub on your side spokes or do something in it. It'll still work. It will still get you down, but it doesn't mean that you're not putting in a lot more energy than you need to get there. Same thing is if you're shifting linkage. If that is not set correctly or tuned correctly, in that it will bind. And if you've ever had a bike where that slipped and you try to shift and then all of a sudden you can't pedal at all, it shoots you in the foot and keeps you from really being able to progress at all. Your business is the same way. You need to have a series of things that are in alignment, from your wheels to your linkage to your brakes to all these other things, in order to really be efficient doing that. And again, you don't need to be perfect at the start, but you at least need to understand the fundamentals, the basics, and be like, hey, this at least needs to be within a certain tolerance in order to make your life not a living hell from day one.
Yep. There's an acronym that I share that's LIPS, Leads, Inventory, Process, Share, Sales. So leads, inventory, process, and sales are the main pillars of business. And then you have HR and accounting as a separate one. But as long as those are covered, that's basically your business. How do I get leads? How do I fulfill product? And what's the sales and what's the processes to do so, right? Like those are the main pillars of a business. And you have HR and accounting. HR applies to some it doesn't. Like me, I'm just myself, so I don't have HR, but I do have accounting. And so when I look at a business, in order to get those, to have the holistic approach, you have to be aware of each one of those things, and you might not be great at it. For example, for a long time, I struggled with business numbers. I'm not a numbers guy. I don't like spreadsheets, but through my career, I've become a numbers guy, and I love spreadsheets because it was a weakness of mine. But as a business owner, you need to have, like you said, it's like a bike. Hermosi says it's like your body. If you're a muscle, a bodybuilder, you might have huge arms, but if you have little legs, then it's not complete, right? So you need to have awareness of everything that's happening in the body, kind of like that bike. But yeah, leads, inventory, process, and sales. Leads would be your marketing, and then obviously your sales process. But you need a good product and a service to begin with, or it will never work out, in my opinion.
Well, I think people get too cocky, and obviously we had a really booming economy. We're talking 6 years ago, right? Booming economy, and that did really well. But the problem is that people were able to put subpar products that just don't stand the intense, like the length or test of time.
Yeah.
This is why most businesses don't last more than 5 years. Over 90% of all businesses will fail at that point, because typically that's when a market correction happens and they realize, hey, I can't sustain it.
Yeah, the big numbers that you look at is your first year in business, year 3, and year 5, right? So if you can hit those gates, you're doing really good. So the first goal for a business is hit year 1, stay in business year 1, right? The next big gate is like, okay, now that we've made it through a year of business and we, and what that takes, what does it take to get to year 3 and beyond? But if you can make it to year 1, 3, and 5, that's a pretty good track record, at least in my experience with my companies, right? That I've sold. So if you can make it through those, you're doing something right. But yes, you're absolutely correct, Cameron. Like 90% of businesses.
It's easy also to get overconfident in that. Like I remember, especially one of my companies in that I had been in for 10 plus years, and thinking, okay, well, because I've been so successful for so long and I've maintained a good trajectory, I can now slack off.
Well, I just posted about this, like sometimes your biggest wins are detrimental or can be detrimental to people because you land a huge client, a big deal, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I can coast, I can breathe. And you take the foot off the gas pedal, right? And then all of a sudden something will go wrong, like you lose a client or something pops up and it's like, oh crap. And then you have to play catch up rather than just keeping that gas pedal down and going forward, right? And so you're absolutely correct. Comfort is a slow death. As soon as you're comfortable in something, it's a slow death. And so you should always be working on the business to get better, to navigate what's coming, whether that's the economy or different changes in the market, different things like that. But yeah, big wins or comfortability in the long term can be detrimental because you let off the gas. You get complacent in what got you there in the first place, right?
Yeah, I call it beware of the SS, which is a history pun as well, but it stands for beware of success and sulking. So because when you're successful in that, how many people I would have sales guys, for example, that would do so well in freaking sales, so well. I would be proud of them. I'm like, dude, you're crushing it. It is awesome and everything else. And what's the first thing that they do? They go out drinking, they go party, they do all this crap and everything. And then they make a stupid decision or something else, and it destroys all their progress and plummets them.
Well, that's my buddy.
Same with sulking in that, throwing yourself a pity party in that because things didn't go your way. You got fired by a client or whatever.
Yeah. Speaking of sales guys, my buddy owns a solar company in California. And they crush it. He does really good, but he's told me stories about certain sales guys that will go have a phenomenal month, make $50,000, $60,000 in a month or more, and then take off like 3 months and then have to come back and like get back in their routine. And it's just this constant up and down. He's like, I don't know how they do that.
Yeah, they spend everything they bring in.
They spend everything they bring in, and then they have to go suck at it again.
I've done that, so I'm not condemning anyone that has done that. I've definitely had my guilty moments.
I think we all have, but that's where growth comes from. Is fail quickly in business is one of the things that I'm a huge proponent of, because those are life-changing lessons. Like when we started making more money, and all of a sudden I wanted to spend more money. And then I realized, oh crap, we shouldn't have spent that money that we just made. We should have put that away for a rainy day or did something different with it or whatever it was. But those are all lessons, when you screw up. And I think that's what separates good business owners from bad ones is time in business, because you've learned more from your mistakes, Yeah,
I know that Andy Frisella, he doesn't let anybody on his team. He owns First Form, which is actually part of the shirt I'm wearing. But
yeah,
he says nobody on his team can sulk more than 24 hours. Sulk or celebrate success and everything. You have 24 hours to get it out of your system, get back to it.
Yep. There was, I wish I remembered the guy's name. I have a really good buddy named Darren. He's a sales guy. I love him to death. And there's this one guy that was talking about, you get 5 minutes on the sales floor to be sad about a deal that goes through or that doesn't go through or that you lose, right? He goes, but after 5 minutes, you're back on the phone, you're back, contacting your contacts, etc. And so he's applied that in his life, where he's like, if something goes wrong with a client or like a potential lead, I should say, he gives himself 5 minutes just to feel super horrible. And then after 5 minutes, like, okay, back to the grind, And
how much easier is it to carry momentum too after you've made a sell?
Yeah,
well, it is so much easier. Like if you can do that, I ride that momentum. Because if I know that I've been crushed like 3 sales back to back in that, I feel invincible. So it doesn't really matter like what anybody else tells me in that. I'm like, I've already got 3 sales. Like there's not anything you can tell me to bring down my mood right now.
When people ask,
really does transfer.
When people ask, like, when you're in a rut, what can you do? And this makes me think of that, Cameron, is when you're in a rut or, you're just not not on your stuff or whatever, however you want to say it, what do you do? And I always say you have to stack small wins because of that momentum. So it's not going and getting that big contract. It's like stacking the little wins, go getting small ones, go, whatever those little wins look like to you.
For me, I knew if, so when I did door-to-door sales when I was a teenager, right?
Yeah.
I knew that I had to knock 30 doors, and on average, I'd get 1 to 2 sales. And so,
what industry were you doing?
Security. Yeah. So I've done pest control as well, and that it's pretty easy sell either way.
Yep. But you knew your numbers. Hey, I knocked 30 doors. I'll get someone to say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And 30 doors and that were like sometimes, you might go in a neighborhood where none of them are landowner or homeowners, or that you'd get into other neighborhoods and nobody answers the doors. And that's a lot harder, obviously. Yep. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I would always look at that as like, hey, it's just the averages in that. If I've already knocked 30, then I'll knock another 30, and I should somehow in the next 30 doors get 2 sales. So it's just a matter of finding them. And so every single time I got rejected or anything else, I put a smile on my face. It was like, that wasn't the one. Next one. It's a numbers game.
It is a numbers. You got to smile through the nose and get through the nose to get to the yeses and sales for sure. But in business in general is, like business isn't just me sitting here or meeting with people all day long and them saying, oh yes, Morgan, I want to work with you. Send me an invoice. It's not that. It's, I'm so used to, I win in life, Camron, because I'm a failure, because I failed so many times. I've been told no so many times. I've been, dropped on my head so many times in business. But that's why I think I'm a winner, is because I failed so much. Like I'm the world's biggest loser, if you look at it that way. But from that,
entrepreneurs are.
Yeah, but from that, look what that you're able to do. And and nobody's perfect. I still fail to this day, but shit, I make a lot less mistakes these days, I hope, than what I did in that first company that I look back on. I'm like, man, I coasted. I wasn't my best self in that company, Well,
and that's the biggest thing I've noticed with a lot of different business owners in general, and people that stay in dead-end jobs or careers or other things, is they failed once, they stepped out, and that fear of failure was so deep and so traumatizing for them that they refused to step out of that bubble again. And so that's why I also look at people that have or are in those situations, frankly, with pity. Is like, hey, look, you just couldn't, it hurt. I get it. You have to build calluses. It's the same thing when you first play guitar. The person that got really good playing guitar was because they were willing to constantly put in the time. The consistency is not putting in 80 hours nonstop, right? Straight. It's a couple hours every single day, and slow, consistent, patient progress, and that where they can slowly build those calluses, slowly build that, and the skill level, mastering the chords, etc. And then you get really good. Yeah. So it's the same thing in business, and that where it's like you have to get comfortable with discomfort. And then that's also where, as long as you are consistently executing upon the vision and you have the fundamentals there, everything's at least tuned in the general direction, and you have that checkup or check-in every now and then to kind of push you a little bit outside of your comfort zone. It's the consistency at that point. It's the same thing with your fitness journey, right? You don't get in shape or lose 100 pounds by going to the gym once. And you could lose a lot of weight if you just starved yourself for an entire week, but is that going to keep it off? No. Is that sustainable? No.
And we were talking before the podcast, Camron, of, motivation only gets you so far. It's fleeting, motivation. And I know these people that love watching these motivational videos every day. And I just think to get them pumped up and stuff like that. But it's really the discipline that does it. I'm a one-man show over here at Strategy Zoo. I have some people that I work with as contractors or whatever, but no one's telling me to get up and come to work and staying all day and going home. Like, I don't have a boss. I'm not clocking in. I'm just so used to like, oh, I go to work. I'm treating it as a 9 to 5, and I don't even think twice about it. It's just, that's what I do during the day. It's the same thing with anything, is that consistency needs to become a habit. And that's where discipline is whether you feel like it or not.
And if you failed flat on your face 50 times in a row, at the end of the day, I think we can agree here that it's a matter of figuring out that you've just figured out 50 different ways that it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And you're closer to solving the issue of the light bulb than you ever were before. So it's
that's
that
right.
numbers game. And as soon as you build up that skill, the number goes down. So when I first started knocking, it might have been 50 doors. And then I got it down to 30. And then I got it down to 20. You usually don't get it passed down. It gets harder and harder to get better and better. And then at that point, you figure out, okay, how can I add upsells? How can I make every door that I do more profitable and add more value to them through that process?
Yeah.
And that's kind of when you know that you're reaching that upper echelons of success, frankly, in my opinion. But yeah, this has been a great podcast. And is there any final thoughts that you would like to add, Morgan, on this?
No, I just think if there's any business owner out there that's struggling, know that that's completely normal. If you're stressed out of your gourd, it's normal. Just keep going. That's what's gotten me through a lot of those things. And then obviously,
if you don't like to do the stress and that, there's plenty of W-2 jobs. Like don't beat yourself up, but at the same time, understand that discomfort is part of the process.
Yeah. And then obviously I just wanted to say, like, if there's anybody out there listening that needs some consulting with a focus on digital marketing or marketing strategy, hit me up, strategyzoo.com.
All right. So yeah, you hit Morgan up. He's happy to help you. I think his number and everything is all directly there on the website. You can schedule a consultation with him. Definitely recommend it, especially if you think that there's something that just could be a little bit better regardless in your strategy and execution for whatever you sell, regardless if it's a physical product or a service itself.
That's right.
So appreciate you guys. Again, thank you for joining us, and be sure to share the podcast. It really helps us get the word out and help other business owners that are in the same position, that are struggling, and just to overcome those obstacles. So we'll catch you on the next one, and have a great day. Take care.